Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. We are here slogging through the month of February, just about at the midway point. Cold and spooky weather across the country. As I sit here in my neck of the woods, currently snowing, and it's like 0 degrees outside, which doesn't really narrow it down. If you're trying to figure out where I'm from, that's not going to help very much because
there's like a huge swath of land that's like 0 degrees right now.
Right. If you want to like start going door to door and trying to find me, it could take a while. But I'm Illeagle 86. I am joined, of course, by the ever so lovely Nerdbomber, and Techtic rejoins us this week. We have a full strength 3-person cast.
Hello.
It's very exciting to warm the audience up. Do you call podcast listeners an audience? There's not really a proverbial audience. They just listen to us on the weekly, hopefully.
Oh, absolutely. They are our dedicated audience members. Our fellow warriors.
I prefer to think of them more as, well, audience is fine. We want to know, do you eat at the table? Like when you make dinner. First of all, do you make dinner? Or does someone else make dinner for you? And second of all, do you eat dinner at the table, or do you eat it on the couch watching television? Do you eat it, I don't know, in bed? I mean, there's plenty of answers. We were talking about this before the show started. And
we were couchers, and now we're full-on tablers.
There was an incident with a blueberry.
Yeah, it just...
It's what I've been told.
Techtic speared it with a fork, and it just sprayed all over our couch.
It was a juicy, juicy berry.
So we've since become full-on tablers.
Yeah, see, and Hayes and I over here in this household, we're full-on couchers. I think we have a dining room table. We have a dining room and a dining room table. I think we've used the table to eat 5 times. And the reason we were talking about this, by the way, is that the 5th time or so that we've eaten at our table was the day before we're recording this, February 14th, also known colloquially as Valentine's Day. We wish you all a very happy Valentine's Day. Whether you're in a relationship or whether you are single and ready to mingle or ready to just, pursue self-improvement and just live your best single life, happy Valentine's Day. Eat some candy. Stay indoors. It's really terrible outside. We have a great show lined up today. We have a lot of film and television-esque topics, a lot of casting decisions to talk about, to go through, a lot of HBO Max news. We're going to be dipping into video games with some of those. No need to get into the specifics right away for all of them, but I want to start with one that, look, when I was 12 or thereabouts, I used to read this series of books written by Brian Jacques, who presumably was French. Was he French? I know what he looks like.
I don't know if he was
French
name
like
or
Jacques.
French Canadian, or maybe
it's a fair
he was,
assumption.
Maybe he just
Right.
was around France. I don't know.
I never heard him speak. I never saw him in real life, of course. I saw him on the back of many book jackets, and he was the author of the Redwall series. And so first of all, Nerdbomber, I know that you read the Redwall series. Techtic, any familiarity, or is this all Greek to you?
Not a read.
You don't read. Okay. Well, I'll walk you through the details. Also, Nerdbomber, did you read all the Redwall books? There was like 100,000.
I don't know if I read them all, because they were still coming out. Like, there were new Redwall books for decades almost. I want to say they were pumping them out for like 20, 30 years or something crazy like that.
Yeah,
So
they were.
I tapped out at a certain point, but I read a lot of them.
It's sad, but they were pumping it. The guy was writing and he died. That's how Redwall ended. He died and they didn't do any more. But I read at least 8 or 9 of those books, which as a 12-year-old was an accomplishment.
I remember feeling really badass because he called like individual sections of the books. So like within a novel, you had book 1, book 2, book 3. And I don't know if you guys had this at your elementary schools, but there was like a read to win contest thing, and you got like a bookmark if you read so many books. And here I am, I've got a novel in front of me, and I'm like, okay, well, I finished book 1. I'm going into book 2.
Right.
I got 3 books out of this single book. This is amazing. And I would mark them down individually.
So you cheated, is what you're saying.
I didn't know at the time that was like the literary thing, because you're in like 2nd grade or something like that. And you're like, oh my God, look at all these books I'm reading.
I am calling your school effective immediately. And
I have to give all my NFL bookmarks back.
I don't know. NFL bookmarks sound great, but yeah, unfortunately, you cheated. You have to face the consequences. These were books. Okay, these were like, I remember thinking when I was reading Mossflower in particular, because Redwall, the first book, Redwall, was like a hardcover book that, looked like a freaking book. All right. It was like on the order of like a Harry Potter book. And it was, it was like a Harry Potter book. You read it and you were like, okay, this is a book, but I'm still a kid. And then I read Mossflower. And Mossflower is like, that's a freaking book. Do you remember Mossflower?
Oh, yeah.
Bomber?
So just to be clear,
thick paperback.
Your levels of book are, this thing's a book, and then this other thing that's a book. So like you
it's a book, yeah.
It's a book. Okay. So I'm just trying to understand your unit of measurement.
And as Nerdbomber already mentioned, there were books within the books. So the book was actually a book of books. Try and keep up. These were woodland creatures, for lack of a better term. You had mice, you had raccoons, you had badgers. I remember Constance the badger specifically. And it's this group of animals living in this peaceful abbey, which abbey is really just a gentle word for castle. All right? It was a castle. And they would get into wars and adventures. And there was a television show.
The television show was so dope.
I think it was PBS, right?
It aired on PBS, but I think it might have been like a BBC show or something. Like, it was not made in America. It was made over in the UK, I believe. And we just got it on PBS. It was so great.
I think it was basically just chronicling the events of the first book. Like, there wasn't much. It didn't do more than the first book that I remember, but who's to say? The point where this is all leading, by the way, Netflix is doing a series, and I'm jazzed about it. I'm really jazzed about it. It's a great idea. I mean, Netflix, the thing about Netflix is they go hard on the children's content. I mean, I don't watch it because I'm not a child, but if I have, assuming I'm ever to have children, it's going to be a godsend.
As an adult, I could totally see this being geared towards adults as well, because I don't know, is Redwall still popular? I feel like maybe it got replaced, because back when we were, I guess, in elementary school, like, medieval stuff was super, super cool. And now I don't know what is hip with the kids these days, what they're reading. And so I would even be on board with this being a television show that's like more so in the vein of like the Dragon Prince, where it is a kid show, but it's also very much geared towards adults, and adults can find enjoyment in it. Because if this is anywhere near the production value and goodness level of the Dragon Prince, man, I am here for it. It's
just like, I'm going to tell a very brief story that I remember about Redwall. When I was younger, again, like in the 12-year-old zone, I went to school, and a friend of mine introduced me to Redwall, and he had a bunch of the Redwall books. He's still now my best friend. Shout out to Ben. Ben, if you're listening, maybe you still read Redwall. That would be interesting. He gave me one to borrow, and I read it voraciously, as I did when I was younger. And we started talking about the characters, and I mentioned the main character. I think I called him Mitimio. You can read words and not be able to pronounce them. All right. And this was the crash course in that, because there's names that I hadn't seen before. The main character in Redwall is Matthias. I always in my head pronounced it as Matthias, which is wrong. So this was a learning experience for me. I learned it's Matameo. It's Matthias. He had a thing for M's. He really did. Sidetrack. But if you watch the movie and the show that comes after it, you're going to know how all the names are pronounced when you read the books. This is going to be initially a movie that adapts the first book, Redwall, in the series, and then it will be followed by what Netflix is calling an event series based on the character of Martin the Warrior. And if you've read the books, you know that Martin the Warrior is kind of a string that ties all of them together. Mm-hmm. So this is great. I'm on board for this. I think
I'm excited.
Yeah, go on. We wanted to bring this up, not because we had anything critical to say about it. I mean, it's just great news. If ever I have a kid, I'm going to want them to watch something like Redwall.
And honestly, even if you're an adult, I totally advocate going back and revisiting those books if you've never read them before. I mean, I'm trying to think of a good way that would sum it up. It feels a lot like a Game of Thrones, obviously very tame because it's a kid's
Gentler.
book. But like Game of Thrones.
No boobies.
No boobies. Game of Thrones with woodland creatures. Because that's really like the book series was so epic, and it swept over so many different novels that it really did feel like this gigantic story and this huge world, and there were so many different characters and plot lines to follow, and it really was something that set me up to really enjoy and look out for fantasy novels as I was growing up. And that's really what got me into sci-fi and fantasy today, I think. I credit Redwall with a lot of that. So if you've never read them before, I feel like these still hold up even as an adult. And I know that you can go find the series. I think it's currently on Amazon Prime, the original one. So you can hunt that down and watch it.
Is it really?
I believe it is.
Oh my God.
So definitely go check that out because like I said, it's kind of like Game of Thrones for kids with woodland creatures. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Well, there's a chance. First of all, I have to admit that I very briefly imagined a woodland creatures Game of Thrones that does include the boobies and the gore and all that, and that'd be messed up. But I have to imagine that there were possibly elements of these books that I read when I was a kid that were allegorical, that flew over my head as a youngster. Let me put it that way. Not anything like, R-rated, but deeper themes that I didn't care about. I cared about reading about woodland creatures, using swords and crap. But I'd be curious to reread them. I'm not sure that I will, but I'd be curious to do that. Another thing I want to mention about the series before moving on and to kind of advocate for watching this show, the existing one and the new one, is a lot of strong female characters. And Nerdbomber, that might be why it resonated with you. Like, I specifically remember Mariel of Redwall.
Oh, yeah.
Which was one of the later books, but in almost every book, there was at least one very strong female character, which it's important, obviously, for you to be exposed to that, but, it's important for me to be exposed to that, too, and to any kid. So, shout out to Redwall on Netflix. We want to hear from you on Twitter. Did you read Redwall when you were a kid? Did you watch the show?
And if you are still going to the book fair and have that book fair money, don't be a Techtic and spend all that money on posters for your room. Buy a book.
So you went to okay, let's unpack that. You went to the book fair and just bought posters.
And sometimes bookmarks.
Like pens and stuff.
Yeah.
Look, book fairs were really cool. First of
all those milky gel pens. Ooh.
Toys. There's occasional little nothing toy.
When you guys were in school, did you...
Oh, actually, Animorphs. I bought the Animorphs books.
Animorphs was dope.
See, I missed out on Animorphs. That's one that I missed out.
I feel like we need to have like a 90s Pulp Fiction book club thing where we all read about Redwall and Animorphs all over again.
Well, because what I was about to mention, I was a Magic Treehouse.
Oh, I was part of the Magic Treehouse Club.
I sucked those things down like Coca-Colas when I was a 10-year-old kid. Or I was younger than that probably. But I used to get these like illustrated classic stories that had pictures in them and they were easier to read. It was like, I would read like Huckleberry Finn and it was like 10 pages. And books as a kid were great. Did you guys, when you were kids, did you have book order forms?
100%.
Those were like crack cocaine. Like I would bring those home all excited. I would show it to my mom. She'd be like, okay, pick out a book. And man, remember, like, don't get me wrong, I like to read now, but like, not like that. Not the excitement level was not that high. It's not that high now. It was so high then.
I mean, I still have a really big excitement level about getting a new book, but you're right. It's completely different. Like I've been doing Book of the Month Club. So you get to pick a monthly book on and off for a year. Like I don't do it consecutively, but whenever I see that they have titles that interest me, I'll do the month and get a book and I get really excited. But I just remember sitting down with that book order catalog and going through with a pen and just circling all of the books that I wanted.
It was incredible.
It was so great.
Because now you get a book and you feel guilty and go, ugh, when am I going to read this?
Well, yeah. And yeah, obviously another big part of it too is that when you're a kid and you bring home a book order form to your mom, it wasn't my money. My mom was like, hey, pick out a book. I was like, hell yes, Mom, I will pick out a book.
Well, plus
and
those books,
you will pay for it.
Those books, like, I don't know what Scholastic, how they were making profit, but like now books are $30. You could get a book for $3.99. So my mom would be like, you have $20.
Feel the paper quality of the two different books, trust me.
It's fair. They were called pulp books for a reason. They were made out of pulp. But I mean, you could still get like 6 books for what you could buy one book for now. So
that's true.
It was exciting.
Those children's paperback, if you threw them up in the air, they'd just disintegrate. The pages would just fly everywhere. They were barely made of anything, but they were great to read, and that's what they were for. So go check out Redwall. And look, Twitter folk. We're on Twitter. We're there. We're part of the cultural zeitgeist of the 21st century. We tweet. We like things. We retweet things. at Online Warriors 1. It's our main show account. At OW Illeagle 86, at OW Nerdbomber, at OW Techtic. We're all there. Come talk to us about Redwall, about Netflix, about whether or not Brian Jacques is French or Canadian or French Canadian. You know, what do you think of Woodland Creatures as a narrative vehicle? Just talk to us about all that or something else. Who cares? Let's move on now. I want to save the other topic that I'm really excited for later. I'm picking and choosing topics. I want to talk about HBO Max, and we're going to talk about a few things here. I think we'll start with the Justice League trailer because it was long. It's like, what, a 2.5 minute trailer? I don't know exactly how long. It might have been even longer than that. First of all, if you haven't watched it, pause the podcast, go watch it. It's 3 minutes max, and then come back because we're about to talk about it, probably in some amount of depth. And I'll give my just one word, one sentence fragment summary. Who the hell cares? That's my overwhelming. I might have gone into it with a bad attitude. I'll cop to that. But like, everyone's talking about the Joker being in this trailer, right?
So
he's in the last 2 seconds. Give me a freaking break. And it's a dream sequence, clearly.
So my opinion of it is I kind of agree with you with regards to the Snyder Cut, because basically what we're going to see with the Snyder Cut is what we saw with the original Justice League, with a bit more of a substantial plot, but the same action.
Which by the way, and it wasn't good. And like, it is well known that it wasn't good. But,
yeah. It's kind of still going to be all of the same, in my opinion. And the one major difference is the scene with the Joker. And what we've seen time and time again with regards to the Justice League is when the shared, I'm going to say this again, the shared Earth is in peril to the point where not even the villains get to rule, there's team-ups that take place. And what I'm hoping is this open up the doors for some kind of a team-up to take down the bad guys. And I think that would be something new, something cool that we'd all be excited to see. So that's my major takeaway.
So is that what they're teasing with, like the Lex Luthor voiceover and the Joker? I thought the Joker was a dream. Is that not a dream sequence? The part with the Joker and the Batman's he's in like the dust world or whatever. Did I miss something?
It's hard to say because we don't know what is really being planned for this rendition. So I'm just going to go full steam ahead with my theory,
sure, and
not read into too much of the scenery per se.
I agree. That would be an exciting. Imagine the Batman and the Joker teaming up. That's good right there. Like, that's a good thesis for a movie.
So my biggest takeaway here, I guess there's two things. Like, first of all, it looks super grim and dark and not super fun. And I feel like
that's a good thing.
Yes and no. And I know that's like the whole Zack Snyder shtick, but like the last few DC movies, I feel like they really moved away from that. And I know this is going back to fix Justice League, supposedly, and make it better, try to fix Justice League. But like, yeah. I don't know if I'm feeling something 4 hours long that's grim and dark and not fun. Like, I don't know if I have a place for that in my life at the moment, but hey, you know what, Zack Snyder, I'll give it a shot. Why we have to do it in 4:3 aspect ratio? Also not super sure. Not clear on that. Like, I know there was a reason. He gave some kind of reason, but
That's what his TV supports.
I'm not looking forward to that. I want to make full use of my TV. I don't just want to watch it in 4:3. And I know it's like expanded shot, so you could see more of the surroundings or something. Because there's
the
more like
dream scenery.
There was like supposedly, I think I read that he wanted more like vertical environment in his shots. I'm not really sure.
He suggested everyone rotate their televisions, but that didn't land.
So the question I have for you guys. Are you guys excited to watch this? Do you think it's going to make a difference? Because right now for me, like, I feel like I'm gonna watch it because it's on HBO Max and I feel like I have to stay up on my nerd cred, but I don't know if it'll make it better.
No plans to watch here. I'm not turned on by it. I'm turned off by it. And let me give you a visual attachment to that.
I don't know where you're going with this and I'm uncomfortable.
My penis wise. Okay, when you're this turned off, your penis inverts and goes into your body. Like, I saw the first Justice League. I sat through that in theaters, and it was, pretty bad. And the premise here is, okay, what if we gave you a director that people are bloodthirsty about for no reason? Zack Snyder, who Watchmen was good, 300 was fine. I don't get what the fuss is all about with him. And also, what if he gave you a movie that he just didn't want edited? It just was 4.5 hours or however long it's going to be. It doesn't sound enticing to me at all. I think there's something on offer here. Like, if I remember correctly, in the original cut, they either didn't show the dream at all that like precipitates Batman's action, or they showed it for like 2 seconds. And I agree that's an important thing that they should give more time to. But 4 hours? If it's 4 hours, it's going to have a lot of the same crap I already saw, and none of that was good. So I don't know what all the fuss is about. And there's a lot of fuss. That's another big thing about it. There's so much fuss. There's a little bit of contrarianism on my part of like, I don't want to care because everybody else seems to, and I don't get it. I don't understand it. And with that, Techtic, take it away. Give me a dissenting viewpoint if you can. I don't know how much you are looking forward to it or how much you care, but I assume you do more than I do.
So here's my take of what your perspective should be, and that is, I think you should see it pending the review of your friends.
Okay, so you're offering to take that bullet for me.
I will take that bullet for you.
You're a true friend. You've done this for me on multiple occasions, and you warned me about Wonder Woman, and I went in anyways. So I can't promise I'll listen to your recommendation, but
I mean, you know where my bar is. I told you where Wonder Woman is, and I believe that met my expectations that you would perceive. So if I tell you something's bad, it's going to be bad, and if I tell you something's good, it's something you should really consider.
That's true. That's a good way to put it. I'll tell you one thing. For 4 hours of my life, it's going to have to be really good. It's going to have to be life-changing.
It's going to have to make your penis jump off of your body in excitement.
Hey, I'll tell you what, that would be something. We'll see. Other things in the hopper for HBO. Been a big week for HBO. Series orders have been announced for 3 new adult animated shows. And the one I know the most details about, I did not watch Clone High, so I don't have a whole lot of information or takes on that. I want to talk about this Velma Dinkley spinoff. And now I'm starting to sound like Lewis Black, like some cynic, but who asked for this?
Dude, I'm on board with this.
Yeah.
I'm not there at all. It seems like a waste of airtime to me. Prove me wrong. This is good. Prove me wrong.
Outside of the main Shaggy and Scooby relationship, Velma is the most compelling character in the Mystery Machine gang, or Mystery Inc., I guess. And they've made her backstory, the canon backstory for Velma, super interesting to me. Like, they've completely developed her character in a way where she's not just the dorky sidekick. And I want to see it. Mindy Kaling is going to voice her, and I think that's a great fit. I feel like Mindy Kaling always makes me laugh. She might be a little bit too bubbly and quirky for Velma. I feel like Velma's always kind of been more of a...
No, I think she's still going to have the shy personality.
Yeah? Okay.
I like Mindy Kaling a lot. I have no problem. The nuts and bolts of it. The nuts and bolts of it are great. The premise wise, I can't get there.
I think a good comparison would be the show Archer, in my opinion, as far as adult cartoons go. I think it's going to have that same kind of like slick spy or maybe detective, if I will, banter. I don't think she's going to be the quirky, silly one in her gang, but I think there is going to be an Archer-esque goof. I think there has to be. That's what Fred was there for. He was the goof in that squad. And so I think it has all of the right personnel to really make a dynamic squad, because I think she works in a group. I don't really see her as a standalone rotational character where it's just new people each day that she's interacting with. I think she has a lot of strengths that can be played off of some other team. And I see her as the main and the leader in that team because of her skill set, but I think we just need to know more about that squad that she's going to be representing, if I may.
So let me get a point of clarification too. They seem to be using the word adult animation very specifically. Is this like, and I haven't watched much Archer, but I've watched enough to know that like it goes to Ranch Town fairly often. It's a regular resident of Ranch.
Yeah, but there's not like nudity or anything like that. Like it's not afraid to say that, like that sex could be a topic or drugs can be a topic or things like that.
But my point is, my question is then, is the Velma Dinkley spinoff going to Ranch Town? Because that just seems like a bizarre left turn to me.
I mean, let's be honest. Velma can get it. You know what I mean?
I'm not saying Velma can't get it, but it's a weird left turn.
I think it might even just be exploring more adult themes. And by that, I don't mean sexy time. Like, they might just be exploring adult life. Because even throughout most of all of the Scooby-Doo stuff that we've seen, all of the content, at the oldest, they're like late teens.
Well,
You
yeah,
never
they're-
really see them as adults. So maybe this is like Velma striking out on her own and she's like in her 30s or 40s and doing a thing. Who even knows?
Tracking down a series of murders linked to drug cartels.
Yeah,
you
like,
can't do that on regular Scooby.
I was gonna say it might be like actual crime. It might not be like, gee willikers, someone in a ghost mask stole all the
Zoink,
candy bars
Scoob.
from the convenience store.
Jinkies.
Yeah, it's like they're all like victimless crimes, right? Whereas I will admit it would be interesting to see Velma attempt to solve a crime with victims, but like it just I don't know. It might be that my view of Scooby-Doo as a show is
I really
It's
hope
very-
that Scooby and Shaggy cameo, and they finally just outright say it. They're potheads. That's really all I want. Everyone's tiptoed around it, but come on.
But how do you have Scooby-Doo cameo in an adult? I guess you could do like a Brian from Family Guy situation where he's like suddenly matured and can like talk in an intelligible way.
Or
But
just
I don't
like
know.
Shaggy's there and Scooby's there, and they're both blazed out on the couch, and they don't need to say a word.
Maybe I'm putting too much emphasis on the word adult, but like when I think of Scooby-Doo and by extension Velma, I
Perfect.
I'm just gonna plow right through that. I think of this very transient. The episodes of Scooby-Doo were not long. It was like, I don't know, half-hour television where each character got a handful of lines and they solved a crime at the end and moved on to the next one. There was no continuity or depth, and there wasn't really need for it.
See, that's where you're wrong, though, because early 2000s Scooby-Doo really did evolve from that point. So I was a big Scooby-Doo head when I was a kid. I'll admit it. Redwall, Scooby-Doo. I was a straight-up nerd. I was, gunning for where I am today. Full
Scooby-Doo's
steam
not
ahead.
nerdy. I wouldn't.
I
say.
mean, to the extent that I really liked Scooby-Doo, it was a little nerdy.
Okay. I'll take your word for it, I guess.
But when they started getting into the movies, the animated movies that were like an hour and a half long and they actually had real paranormal stuff happening. Like it wasn't just a dude in a mask. They were actual zombies and actual werewolves and actual
thought you were gonna-
aliens.
I thought you were going to bring up the live action movies, which we don't.
No.
Those don't deserve the airtime on this podcast.
I thought those were actually quite good.
They
especially
were.
the first
Thank
one.
you.
The live action ones?
Yes.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the animated ones.
Techtic, come on.
Like they weren't terrible.
First one was good. When they introduced Scrappy,
Well, I guess my view of Scooby-Doo is just different, and it sounds like it might be because I didn't stick around for long enough. It wasn't a show I sought out. It was a show that it happened to be on, and I would watch it, and that might be why it has this I have this very fleeting attitude towards it.
I urge you, go back and try to find, I don't even know where you can find it, but try to go back and find those animated movies. They were like an hour and a half or so. Just give them a whirl, give one a whirl. And you see a little bit more depth to the characters and a little bit more interaction because you have more screen time with them. And even like the movies kind of built off of each other. So it wasn't like you started from scratch and had to get introduced to them all over again. So like you had time to get to know them and it was good. It was real good.
I mean, I to throw them a bone too, in terms of
Scooby
if you have
snack.
to pick to throw them a Scooby snack. Thank you.
Oh,
To
fudge.
hey, that was a good joke.
Yeah. You got to really find out where those buttons are. To throw them a Scooby snack, like if they had to pick a character from the Mystery Machine Squad to spin off, like you said, Shaggy's a pothead, Fred is a walking haircut, Velma's a great choice, and Mindy Kaling is a great choice. I think she can adapt to that. I just premise wise, I'm as you can tell, I'm having a hard time. But this is on the way. We are not done with talking about HBO Max, actually. We're going to be talking about another HBO Max casting announcement after the break, but we will have to take our break now. But we have to shout out our fantastic Patreon producers, and that's producers with an S, because we have two. 2021 coming in hot. Stephen Keller, Ben Checkness, hats off to you. Tip of the cap, other hat-related metaphors. We want to thank you for supporting the show on Patreon at the night level, which gets you this producer shout out, gets you input into the weekly game segment, gets you, of course, access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, and occasional guest spots as well. We want to thank you for that. If you want to support us on the show and perhaps aren't looking to support us at the night level, there are also Squire and Page levels. The Squire gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, and the Page gets you access to the monthly secret segment. So head over to patreon.com/Online Warriors Podcast. Check out more of the details there. Be like Ben, be like Steven. Join the crew. We're a crew. We're making our own mystery machine over here. And what does the machine make? Good podcasts. It's a podcast machine. Is that a fair assessment of what we do here? I don't know. I just show up.
We make good content, great content.
Right. It's a good point. It's not just podcasts. So thanks again to Steven and Ben. We're going to take a short break now to shout out one of our sponsors. But when we get back, we're going to talk about some casting announcement for Borderlands and The Last of Us.
Oh boy, I'm so glad we got that chance to take a break. I was really getting hungry, so I just finished up a Kind bar. Sorry for the gross chewing noises. But that kind of brings us into our sponsor for this week, because today's episode is brought to you by Kind Bar. Kind is deeply committed to crafting food with real, recognizable ingredients, a disruptive notion that sparked the creation of a new healthy snacking category. Kind is unapologetic in their efforts to challenge the status quo, to shift the food industry, and empower their community and our listeners to make better, informed choices about health. Kindness can be a transformative force for good, and that is why we're teaming up with Kind and Podgo to bring our listeners 10% or 15% off for military, teachers, students, first responders, doctors, and nurses. Go to podgo.co/kind. That's podgo.co/KIND. Kind Bar, creating a kinder and healthier world, one act, one snack at a time.
All right, welcome back to the show. To wrap up the HBO Max set of topics, we need to talk about The Last of Us. And this is, of course, exciting for me as a true fan of the franchise. Techtic almost finished the first game, I think. I don't believe he ever actually finished it. But we've heard about this HBO Max. This HBO series has been in the works for a while. It's been announced. We got the short little trailer basically showing the Firefly symbol. No other information. But they've just announced, two of the most important, almost the only two casting decisions that need to be made for this show, which are the casting choices for Joel and Ellie. And I want to talk about Joel first. For those that did not hear, Pedro Pascal is the guy here. And, it's a mixed bag for me. This is about as mixed a bag as you can get. I like Pedro Pascal a lot. He's done very well in The Mandalorian. He was pretty decent in Wonder Woman. He was good in Kingsman, the Golden Circle. He's not gruff enough. Like, when I think about Joel as a character, he's older and gruffer, and just the edges are so much rougher than what Pedro Pascal has on offer. From a physical standpoint, from a vocal standpoint.
For me, it's the eyes. His eyes, are really too kind, if I may.
Yeah, and this could be bias, too. This could be recency bias in the sense that we've watched him now for over a year start off as this hardened character who ultimately softens from episode to episode on the Mandalorian.
But even as a hardened character in The Mandalorian, you knew he had that soft spot in him. Whereas, in my opinion, in The Last of Us, he's more of a caretaker than he is someone with a soft spot.
Right. The soft spot does develop. I mean, without giving spoilers, there's a soft spot that develops in The Last of Us, but it's a much more utilitarian. Caretaker is a great way to put it. And at the beginning of the game and what will ultimately be the show, he is a do what it takes to survive guy, and that never really changes. So I don't know. It's tough because when I first heard about this show, and even before I heard about this show, I was already thinking, okay, let's say this became a movie, not even a show. Who plays Joel? To me, the answer is abundantly clear. It is Hugh Jackman is the end all be all. They probably tried to get him, and they should have. They should have if they didn't. He would be a tough get. Should have been him. But I'm not altogether dissatisfied with Pedro Pascal. I want to make that clear.
So, interestingly enough, I'm drawing a blank on the actor's name, but it's kind of funny that you suggest Hugh Jackman. I was actually thinking the actor that plays Sabretooth, and I'm drawing a blank on his name.
It's not Liev Schreiber, is it? It's been a long time since I've seen the X-Men movies that he was in. Was he only in the first one? Yeah, it's Liev Schreiber. He'd be good. I mean,
yeah, he would be a much better one, in my opinion. Liev Schreiber.
Than Hugh Jackman?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Okay, well, that I take issue with.
Again, Hugh Jackman has the same kind of thing for me. you can tell he has this innate kindness hidden behind his gruff, whereas Liev Schreiber has more of it's in there, but he doesn't show it.
So I've never played The Last of Us. You guys know this. This is like my glaring like hole in my gaming portfolio that I've never gotten around to playing it. And I probably should, and I probably will soon. But I don't agree with either of you that Pedro Pascal is not a good fit, just from the limited information that I know of Joel, because you guys are thinking of him in The Mandalorian taking care of a baby Yoda, which fair, cute. But he also has played a huge role in Narcos, and he's also played not a huge role, but a role in Game of Thrones where he had to play slightly gruffer characters, and I feel like he pulled it off very well.
But in Game of Thrones, he was really the playful flirt. He didn't have any gruff.
Yeah, but then all of a sudden, like, he had that badass side where he was like a badass warrior dude.
I don't know. Another name I want to throw in, Carl Urban would have been amazing. Throwing that name in there.
That's good. Carl Urban would have been great.
I'm thinking about like who's gruff. Like, another thing I want to say about Pedro Pascal too. Again, I'm not looking to dump on this choice or on him. He is not old enough. I also think that Joel has to be at least 50 years old. And I don't know how old Pedro Pascal is, but I doubt he's that old. I'm Googling it right now. Pedro Pascal age. He's 45, so he's close. But I don't think he's quite there. I don't know. To move into the Ellie casting, which is of equal importance, if not greater importance, I do not know. I did not watch Game of Thrones. You guys watched Game of Thrones, yes?
Yes. So
Bella Ramsey, I have no idea who she is. The look is right. I will say, just, I can only go off of the look, and Elliot Page has aged out.
Yeah.
10 years ago, he would have been great. But that's no longer an option, so I think Bella Ramsey is as good as the next best thing.
I saw a lot of flack on the internet, and again, this is someone who's never played The Last of Us, so take this with a grain of salt, but there was a lot of flack on the internet about how she didn't look the part, and they wanted someone who looked more in line with the video game character. And honestly, I don't think that matters as much. I think what you need, especially for a young actor, is you need somebody who can display the type of emotion that I've heard is in The Last of Us. And you need to have that range of dynamic emotion and the ability to play off very grave situations, because we're talking about a post-apocalyptic zombie world, basically. And you need to have a young actor who can successfully play a serious role. And I feel like Bella Ramsey does a really good job of that. So I think it's a good fit. And
for that,
HBO knows both of them. They've worked with them both.
That's true. The look isn't wrong either. I disagree with anyone saying that the look is wrong. The look is probably...
I think the look is spot on.
Yeah, it's like as close or about as close as you could get. So that complaint doesn't ring true to me at all. Needless to say, I remain... They could have cast two pieces of wood and I would have been excited. But I'm excited by Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. I think the show's going to be great. I don't have any serious doubts. Similarly, I don't have any doubts, kind of transitioning a little bit into the Borderlands casting announcement. And
you have no doubts? Oof.
Jack Black as Claptrap is perfect. Like, okay, my exposure to Borderlands is not as high as you guys, and I'm sure you guys have a lot more thoughts on these casting choices than I do.
But you played the first game pretty extensively.
I didn't finish it, but
you still played it.
I played it for long enough to know that Jack Black as Claptrap is good, and if you disagree with that, I can't help you.
Can I kind of divide? Can I squeeze right in the middle of you two?
Squeeze right in the middle, man.
So
go ahead.
I think he has the right personality. I don't think he has the right voice. However,
that's my problem.
However, I do think that they are going to have some movie magic with his voice. It has to sound robotic. It has to.
My biggest issue, and Techtic basically pointed out, I think Jack Black is great from the comedy standpoint because Claptrap is the comedic.
He's the levity.
He's the levity of the entire game, in my opinion. Or not maybe the entire game, but he brings a lot of it. But the voice, Jack Black has a very iconic voice. Claptrap has a very iconic voice. The two voices are not the same. It's just not a good voice fit. So maybe they'll do something, but I'll run us through some of the other casting choices. So You have Kevin Hart as Roland. And Roland in the game, this is another thing, like I enjoy Kevin Hart. That's no good at all. Roland
I agree
is
with
this
that.
big, really buff, giant, militaristic dude who is kind of gruff and very solemn. Like, of the entire crew, he is one of the more serious characters. And you got Kevin Hart.
So Roland can be quippy, but it's not
Kevin Hart level
not
comedy.
It's not like frenetic Kevin Hart comedy. It's very gallows humor driven.
Right.
Kevin Hart's. I'll meet you there. Kevin Hart is not right for Roland.
Like, I could see Terry Crews in the role because he's a big video game nerd and, like, physique-wise fits almost to a T. I think that would be a better fit. I'm very skeptical about the Kevin Hart casting here. Techtic, do you have any thoughts on that?
I couldn't agree more.
So, moving to the next one, they also announced that Jamie Lee Curtis is going to play Tannis, which...
That's good. Okay, that come on.
Okay, so the character ages here. I don't really know what they're doing in terms of ages because Kevin Hart is relatively young. But Jamie Lee Curtis, and we'll talk about Cate Blanchett, who is also cast, they're older than their characters in the game by a substantial amount. And I don't disagree. I think Jamie Lee Curtis can pull it off. She's a nerd. She kind of has the general look of Tannis. But I can see this jiving, but I don't know what they're going for. Because even like Cate Blanchett, I could see that casting working maybe like 10, 20 years ago. But I'm just confused. Like, are they trying to do a futuristic version of Borderlands? And if so, then why is Kevin Hart so much younger comparatively? And I'm confused.
I think Tannis will be fine. I'm not worried.
Cate Blanchett is Lilith, right? The main character. Okay, I agree with you on that. And they could have gotten someone younger.
And like, I'm not trying to be ageist here because I think those, like, they're great actresses. I think they would be great for the role if we're doing like a future Borderlands type thing, you know, if we're doing like a new generation of fighters and they're like the guiding hands. But if you're going to try to give me Borderlands 1 story, I'm confused.
Well, so I stand by, I think, I don't know what Tannis's role. It wasn't all the way fleshed out for me in my play because I didn't finish the game. But the role that I saw her in, Jamie Lee Curtis would be perfect for because she had the voice and the look, and it seemed like in an advisory role, not really at the forefront of anything that was going on. I want to know who the Russian guy is. That's the missing piece here. Can't think of the guy's name now. The guy who was driving the bus at the beginning. Who's he?
I'm drawing a giant blank.
Well, I mean, I'm saying he hasn't been cast yet, but that's an important casting. I assume the Russian guy's going to be in it. He might not even be Russian. I know he's got some kind of accent. He's also the guy that has all the.
I'd love to play a psycho.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I want to play the guy who dies like right away at the beginning, the blind guy. Anyways,
I think this movie could be good, but I don't know what the direction is.
All the cast seem kind of older, except for Kevin Hart, and that's the only thing that I can't put. Like, if you're going to do it, be consistent, which is fine. I'm disappointed about Lilith, if I'm being honest.
Well, tonally, it's also kind of you have a half and half situation where I think Cate Blanchett and Jamie Lee Curtis, not that they can't bring the funny, but it's not what they're known for. They're not zany, right? They're dramatic actresses. Whereas
Jamie
Kevin
Lee
Hart,
Curtis and Freaky Friday would say otherwise.
I don't. I'm not even going to give that a response. But like Kevin Hart and Jack Black on the other side of things are decidedly zany, and they were. This is being worked on by the people who did Jumanji. So like they're good. These guys were cast for their zaniness specifically, is my guess. So I agree. There's a discordance of tone there that will need to be sorted out, but we don't even really know what this movie is yet. It's very early yet.
What I don't want it to be, I do not want it to be like Jumanji, where you just have a bunch of players who somehow get sucked into the video game. I do not want that. I don't want it.
Control-Z, Control-V.
Yeah, you want the actual story. And you want it. I know Borderlands has this kind of tongue-in-cheek, very comic thing going on, but I would want an element of seriousness.
I want Ryan Reynolds as Handsome Jack, which if you haven't gotten to the second game, you have no idea who that is. But
I have not.
I want Techtic. How good would that be?
I can already see that happening. The tonal sense of him relative to Handsome Jack is definitely spot on.
Well, time will tell, whether in the first movie or in some sequel, should this one do well. But that's another film that's in the works, and casting choices are being made, so we're here to talk about those and anything else. But right now, it's time for what we've been up to. it's about that time. So I'm going to kick us off. Not a lot going on here. I'm just going to throw that out there. I want to mention, I want to soapbox here. I've been rewatching Friends, and that I feel like, especially amongst our generation, that's a divisive topic. So I want to take a second to talk about it. Friends is unfairly judged. I feel like this is a safe space for me to say that. I think there's a lot of people, specifically younger people, who look at that show and say, it is not funny, it's not good, no one should watch it, it's overrated. And to them, I say nay. I don't know, like, is it dated? Are a lot of the jokes dated? And is there a lot of culture clash? You bet. Is that true of many shows, if not any show that was made in the 90s? Also, yes. It has likable characters, it has good jokes, and it's the time of my life that I'm in right now, which is when I sit in front of the television, I need to shut my brain off almost entirely. That's what Friends provides. And that's not designed to be a knock on the show. I think it's really great, easy watching, and I've been going through that. I've also been playing Super Metroid on the Switch, throwing it back a little bit. But that's the summary of my life. I don't think I've watched any good movies lately. It's kind of been a dry spell for that. So that's the summary for me, which is pretty boring. But let's swing it over to Techtic.
So I've taken some personal time for some personal reasons, but all in all, been hanging out a lot with Nerdbomber, and mainly playing a lot of Sackboy's Adventure. If you haven't played any Sackboys, I wholeheartedly recommend it for the PlayStation 5 because the controllers just make it so much better with some of the haptic feedback, the audio, and everything that is involved with that. Additionally, it's a great couch co-op game for you to play with your friends, significant other, whomever you have around. And it's just very happy and uplifting and cheerful. And the soundtrack is, as the kids say, fire.
Wow. Do kids still say that?
I don't know.
I hope so.
Close enough.
I say it all the time.
A kid somewhere says it. Before Nerdbomber takes over, you jog my memory. Yesterday on Facebook Marketplace, I got Jedi Fallen Order for PS4 for $10. So
it's a pretty solid deal.
That's coming up. It's actually the deluxe edition. I feel like it was a pretty major get. So TBD, we'll update. We talked about that game on the show with Ben Checkness like way back when it first came out, and he spoke pretty highly of it, so I have high hopes for it, and I look forward to playing it and picking out my lightsaber color, mostly. So we'll update. Techtic, you tapped out. Should I swing it over to Nerdbomber?
Tap.
Tappity tap. Nerdbomber, what do you got for us?
So aside from playing Sackboy with Techtic a lot, we've also been catching up on Modern Family. And similarly to what you were saying about Friends, not so much that it's dated, because it's a relatively recent
But
show.
it also gets a bad rap unfairly. I totally agree.
You know, I've never actually seen people give it a bad rap.
Show.
It's one of those shows where it's lighthearted. You can kind of turn your brain off for half an hour. Like it's kind of like a feel-good show, even when there's crazy zany stuff going on, and even like the depressing episodes are still kind of feel good. And I'm digging it. That's what I need in my life right now. So
I'm gonna say it. Phil Dunphy is dad goals.
Phil Dunphy, man. How far are you in the show?
we are in season 7.
Because I've watched it sporadically. My parents watched it like at the tail end of like when I was going to college. Like when I would come home, I would like watch it with them, and I would laugh. And it's another show. It requires no real continuity. You can just jump in and watch it. There was this episode where Phil has this like New Year's resolution or some kind of like year-long goal to bike to Canada on like a stationary bike.
Oh yeah,
stair climber.
The stair climber, and he's like, he thinks he's gonna die because he's trying to get to Canada, so he's like trying to tell Luke like all of his life lessons before he dies while he's on the stair climber, and it's so freaking funny. He's great. He is so good on that show. Ty Burrell.
The evolution of the characters too, and especially the kids, because Techtic and I were just kind of reflecting on it, because we were like, you know how on Hulu you can tab through and see like a screenshot of every episode as you're reading through, and we were just like, wow, you know, before your eyes, and you don't even really realize it because you're watching 22 episode seasons one after another, but you actually watch these kids grow up and their characters evolve and become complex, dynamic people, and it's just it's a good feel-good family show. I mean, I feel like we've run through everything, and now that The Office and Parks and Rec have been moved over to Peacock and you only get the first season for free, like, I'm not going to pay for Peacock. Sorry. And not about that.
For those of you who are curious how we are in our personal lives, our relationship is 100% Phil Dunphy and Claire Dunphy.
Who's Claire?
His wife.
No, I know, but are you Claire or is Nerdbomber Claire?
You know the answer to this.
Well, I mean,
I feel like I'm a lighter version of Claire. I like to hope. Like, I could not
Claire's-
see Claire
Claire's
doing
pretty
a podcast. She's
yeah,
very
Claire-
intense.
she's pretty intense, I was going to say.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure that she's a Claire. You're totally a Filton feed. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you've
Good
never
for-
seen
well,
the intense side. You see the happy-go-lucky, easygoing side.
I don't have a fetish for Halloween, so there's a big difference right there.
That's fair. I make all of our costumes.
But yeah, watching a lot of Modern Family, and really, that's about it. Still kind of slogging away at Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I keep thinking I'm done with it, and then I'm not. So I'm going on like hour 75 at this point, and
I'm telling you, those Assassin's
Same.
Creed games do not encourage you to finish them.
well, it's like at this point, it's the sunk cost fallacy where I'm like, I've already put
Come this
75
far.
hours in.
Yeah.
Like, I should just see it out. And then they keep like, somehow there's more stuff to do. And I'm just like, I stopped doing side missions. I stopped doing, like, I just literally go right to the main mission. But I think I clear the map and then another one pops up. And I'm like, eh.
That's what happened to me with Borderlands. Gotta be honest.
Borderlands
said-
is way shorter, though.
It's shorter, but it's too long for me. And we talked about this, when you're playing Borderlands by yourself, it's kind of a
Yeah,
drag.
it's not as fun.
You hit a touch point for me though. Before we move on to the quiz, you mentioned Peacock. I'm mad at them right now, and let me tell you why. We talked about this with HBO Max, similar thing. But the past it's one of those things. The past week and a half, I have been watching clips on YouTube, listening to the soundtracks while I'm working. I've got a hankering, an absolute hankering to watch Harry Potter. And I don't have cable, so I can't turn on, Freeform where they do marathons every 2 days. And the streaming options, Peacock has, if you get premium, you have access to all 8 movies. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. But even if I signed up for just a month of the premium, I would get to watch Parks and Rec, The Office, and Harry Potter for that month. Sounds amazing, right? Wrong, because they're not on Fire Stick yet. Don't even, look, companies, don't even release your app if it's not on Fire Stick. It's not on Roku. What the hell? It bugs the crap out. I'm so mad. Let's just move on. But I'm so mad about it because I was all excited. I'm going to watch Harry Potter 1. This is last night. I was like, I'm going to watch Harry Potter 1. Went to put it on the Fire Stick, search for Peacock. It didn't come up. I was like, not this bull crap again. Because HBO Max was the same thing. They were working out rights or something. It's don't release the app anywhere.
Roku sticks are better, but that's fine.
It's not on Roku either. Same problem because they can't. There's rights issues. It's
No,
don't even
Peacock's
release
on
your
Roku.
app. What's that?
It's on Roku.
It's on. Okay, so it might have got this. I read something yesterday from late 2020 that said it wasn't on Roku yet. They must have just gotten it on Roku. But Amazon hasn't sorted out their crap yet, so I can't. My option to do it is I guess Roku. I didn't know that, but our bedroom TV ain't got Roku. It's just the Fire Stick, and if I can't have it on all TVs, I'm not going to pay for the
Don't want
app.
it at all.
I'm not going to pay for the app, and it just it bugs the crap out of me. Sorry, you hit a soft spot there. You can do the quiz now. Nerdbomber's hosting the quiz, everybody. I need a second to cool off.
All right, so with a big anniversary for the Legend of Zelda franchise coming up within the next week after this episode releases,
35th, right?
yeah, we and our patrons decided that Zelda trivia would be a great way to
Oh, God.
tackle this anniversary. So we've got a 2-person quiz this week, and it's going to be Price is Right style again. So, that's my favorite type of style quiz to write. I've got 5 questions here and a tiebreaker. We'll have Illeagle start answering the questions first to give Techtic a little bit of a break since, he doesn't have a great winning record at the moment and could use all the help he gets.
He doesn't have a winning record. It's not just a great winning record. There's no.
He doesn't have any winning record. I wanted to throw him a bone. Okay.
I didn't.
This first question, not including the remakes or re-releases, how many quote-unquote mainline Zelda games have Link in their title?
I want to hedge as hard as I can here. I started playing Ocarina of Time, the best game of all time. I got 30 minutes in. I was like, this is crap, and I stopped. I have not played a single Zelda game. I could not be more ill-suited for this quiz. With that in mind, I'm going to say 3.
A lot of them are Zelda, or
Yeah.
don't have Link in them at all. I think 3 is a good guess, but I think it's a low guess. So I'm going to say 5.
Oh man, Techtic, you should have done the one-up trick because there are 4. The 4 games are Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, A Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, and A Link Between Worlds. So we start off this quiz.
That's correct.
That is correct. I looked it up. So we
Techtic's
start
new
off.
quiz strategy is challenging that answers are correct. I like it.
So Illeagle has a point, but you still have plenty of wiggle room here to pull this out, Techtic. So let's dive right into question 2. What was the initial release date of the original The Legend of Zelda game? And you guys kind of have a little bit of a pass here because, it's 35th anniversary. So if you want to do the math, but I also am including the month and date to make it interesting. And Techtic, you start with this one.
Why am I so bad at math? Okay. Yeah, all right. Whenever you're ready, Sweet Cheeks. You mind if I call you Sweet Cheeks?
I'm going to say February 15th, 1986.
Okay, so that's today. I'm just, yeah. I'm going to give you some cushion on the days. I'm pretty sure it's next week. So I'm going to say February 20th, 1986.
All right, so I'm realizing now that with the pre-quiz discussion, I pretty much gave this question away and gave it a very short window.
Yep.
Illeagle gets this one. It was released on February 21st, 1986 in Japan, and then it was actually released a year later in the United States and the UK.
Yeah, I kind of blew it for you there. I was the one who said 35th anniversary. My fault.
You knew too much going in. So Illeagle has 2 points. Techtic has none, but there are still 3 questions and a tiebreaker, so anything can happen.
This is cool, guys. Thanks. This is what I wanted to come back to.
Hold on to the hope. Let's do this.
So this next one is pretty interesting. This is actually about speedrunning. And what is the current world record for speedrunning the original Legend of Zelda game?
100% or just finish the game? Because that's a critical.
Speedrunning. I'm pretty sure speedrunning is just finishing the game.
Well, you can do either one. I'll assume it's not 100%. It's like 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Techtic, what do you got?
Well, I know it's longer than that, so I'm just going to say 31 seconds.
All right, so tactics did pay off. That was a tongue twister there. This was actually set by the player called Green Mario on July 5th of 2020.
So
he
Luigi.
managed to complete the game. I see what you did there. He managed to complete his speedrun in 27 minutes and 36 seconds.
Okay.
So we have a 2-1 game here. Everybody's still in it. Let's keep going. 4th question. Breath of the Wild, which is one of the most recent entries in the Zelda franchise, across both the Wii U and the Switch, has sold how many copies as of December 2020?
These speedrunners, by the way, are incredible. Go watch some speedruns on YouTube. I mean, I watch like Mario speedruns and like Metroid speedruns, and they're like,
the hacks
very
that they
skilled.
find is stupid.
they're very engaging to watch. I know it sounds stupid, but it is not. Find a game that you've played and loved and go watch the speedrun. It's like, oh my god. Anyway, sorry.
How many copies or how many dollars?
How many copies have been sold as of December 2020th across both the Switch and the Wii U?
500 million.
That's way too much. I mean, I'm going to say 1 million because I know it's less than 500.
All right, so Illeagle gets this one. It has sold 23.12 million copies total across both consoles. It actually only sold 1.6 million on the Wii U. The majority of those sales have been on the Switch. And the Nintendo president actually said sales were unprecedented. So right now,
500 million. I mean, if it was 500 million, they would have had to throw one through my window.
yeah, I don't know.
I thought it was global sales.
Still.
Yeah, but I don't know if that many consoles have even been sold.
Across
Let's not-
2 consoles.
Let's not dwell on the 500 million answer.
So it's 3-1. You could blow up my spot here if I could include the tiebreaker, and I'd have to find a new tiebreaker. So let's see this. Ocarina of Time was the first 3D entry in the series and the 5th game overall. What is the duration of the title theme?
I'm going to go, if you let it play out.
Hey, I'm first. Don't get me wrong. I would love the hint, but I think it's going to be an exact number. That, like, my gut says it's going to be an exact number. I'm going to say 1.5 minutes.
That feels just shy of too long of what I was going to say. I'm going to say 30 seconds just to play it safe.
All right, so Techtic actually does get this one. The theme song is 1 minute and 20 seconds, and
That's
it remains.
actually what I was going to guess if I guessed
Come
first.
the heck on. Gee whiz.
It remains
right.
on the title screen until the entire scene plays out, or if you advance to the select screen. So yeah, Techtic, if you were actually going to guess 120, you would have been right on the nose. So this is going to be a twofer. There was actually a Legend of Zelda TV show that premiered in 1989. How many seasons were there? And the bonus is, can you tell me how many total episodes there were?
Okay, so trick question. They cut it mid-season of the second season, so really it was 1.5 seasons, and there was a total of 15 episodes.
It's a really, really good guess. It's a strong, strong guess. I'm going to double it. I'm going to say it actually survived for 3 seasons. No, you know what? 1 season. It made it... It was canceled midway through the first season, but they let it finish out its season run. And there were only 12 episodes.
Illeagle, you were almost spot on the money. There was only 1 season of the show, 13 episodes. You got both of these. Techtic, you were so close. When you said 1, if you would have just stopped there, I was like, oh, he's going to get it. And then you didn't. But this means Illeagle, the self-proclaimed ignoramus of Zelda-ness. I don't
True.
know if that even made sense.
It's still
has
true.
taken home the Zelda trivia for the week. Happy anniversary to The Legend of Zelda. Happy 35 years.
It's honestly a bittersweet thing for me. You know, Techtic, I'm pulling for you, man.
I kind of wanted Techtic to win this too, but
Also, you do have a win. I misspoke before. You're 1-3. I just looked at the quiz tracker. I'm 3-0. Nerdbomber 2-1. You're 1-3. You're right in there. You and Nerdbomber are right there. So hang tough, my guy. That's the feedback I have for you.
Fine. I'm fine.
We're all fine. Everyone's okay. It's cold outside. It's, the doldrums of February, but we're hanging in there. We want to thank you all for joining us for this fantastic episode of the Online Warriors podcast. If you liked what you listened to, you can head over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, hit us up on Twitter, as we already mentioned. Talk to us about anything and everything in the episode or not in the episode. And keep on being kind to each other. And we will talk to you guys next week.